Hello, good evening, and welcome to the 2026 election hustings for Deputies of St Helier North. I'd like to make you aware that this event is being live streamed to the Vote.je YouTube channel, and a recording will also be uploaded to the Vote.je website and to its YouTube channel as well, so you can watch afterwards. Now, without further ado, you can vote for 3 of the 6 candidates who are standing for the role of deputy. I'm going to introduce them in alphabetical order. So we have Steve Iyer, Independent, Max Andrews, Independent, Ian Barnes, Independent, Victoria Lee, Independent, Kevin O'Connell, Reform Jersey, and Gerald Voisin, Independent. Now, the candidates have agreed that they will speak and answer questions in alphabetical order, with each candidate taking it in turns to answer first. We'll start with a short speech from each candidate, which will be followed by questions from you, the audience, so get your questions ready. These will all be strictly timed in the interest of fairness, so you'll hear me pinging my bell at the candidates if they don't hush up and to give them warnings. And candidates will have 1.5 minutes to answer each question. So I'm not going to waste any more time because you're here to hear from these guys. I'm going to start off with the 3-minute speeches. So Steve Iyer, if you'd like to kick us off.
Thank you all, and thank you all for turning out this evening. It's good to see democracy in action. My name is Deputy Steve Iyer. I was first elected in 2018 in St Helier 3 and 4, then re-elected in 2022 in St Helier North, and I'm trying to be re-elected for the 3rd time. There are a number of issues facing the State's Assembly. One of them is the perennial problem of the cost of living crisis. We need to target any relief to those who are most in need. This is imperative. I would like to see a fuel duty reduction for the period. Sorry. Maybe if I just spoke louder, would that help rather than scream into the microphone? Oh, okay, hold on 1 second, sorry. Sorry. Yes? That's it, so that wasn't entirely my fault. Sorry. Do you want me to start again?
Do you want him to start again?
Sorry. Okay, sorry about that. Thank you. And I would like to say how grateful I am to see so many people in the room seeing democracy in action. That's wonderful. And to hear the microphone is working well. My name is Deputy Steve Iyer. I was first elected in 2018 in St Helier 3 and 4. Then I was re-elected in 2022 in St Helier North, and I'm seeking re-election again in the same district. There are a number of issues facing the State's Assembly over the next 4 years. The cost of living is a perennial problem, and I think we need to target our support for those who are most in need. I would like to see a fuel duty reduction for a period of 1 year while we have the disruption in the Strait of Hormuz, and that will lead automatically to inflationary pressures. I would also like to make sure that we are not introducing a waste charge, which has been mooted by the previous 2 infrastructure ministers. This will push up inflation, will affect those most in need, and will also affect the hospitality industry. I would also like to see a freeze on import duties for the same reason. Affordable housing is always a concern, and I believe that we need more housing being built, especially 3-bedroom houses for young families to start up, because young Jersey people do struggle to find the right sort of housing. And to enable that, we need a new island plan. The Bridging Island plan has been in place for 4 years now and has not brought enough brownfield sites or derelict greenhouse sites up for development, and we need to have that within the next 2 years. The big issue in St Helier North is the acute hospital. Well, and it affects us all, it affects the whole island. When the last government got in 2022, they stopped the Our Hospital project, and they've spent 4 years making very little progress, but it is imperative that the acute hospital goes ahead as soon as possible. I would like to see all St Helier properties connected to mains water. There are a huge amount that are not at present. We are continually trying to press Jersey Waterworks Company, and to no avail. So it's imperative that we press them again to make sure that all houses are connected up and that the sewage system as well is also connected up. Obviously, in this election, you'll notice that senators have been brought back. I'm a firm opponent of senators. I believe it leads to a democratic deficit. And we can see that in so many parishes. We can see it in St. Billard's, we can see it in St. Saviour's. And so if I was elected, I would try to change the system to make it fairer. And at the same time...
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Time's up, I'm afraid. Max Andrews.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for being in attendance this evening. I must say it's been an absolute honour having served for the last 4 years as Deputy for St Helier North. During that time, I have delivered several propositions in the States Assembly, including the launch of a skills development fund to meet the island skill gap needs. To date, 2,060 islanders have attended courses funded by the Skills Development Fund. I've also been responsible for bringing forward a requirement for estate agents to be members of a redress scheme so complaints can be addressed. And I've also brought forward a modernised proposition for the property transaction process in Jersey, where pre-sale agreements could potentially be part of Jersey's legislation. There will be a series of exemptions as well to provide buyers and sellers with greater certainty during the property transaction process. I was also responsible for bringing forward a proposition so we can review the explosives Jersey law that governs the use of fireworks in the island, and that work will commence after the election. And I also brought forward a proposition to reduce the Cabinet Office budget of 79 million, and to date 3.6 million in savings have been secured. Now, looking into the second term, and I obviously do hope I am re-elected, my main priorities will be the size and cost of the government. At the moment, we have a public sector deficit. Okay, we've been running cumulative deficits since COVID-19 of 345 million. That cannot continue. I've been a one-man band, I've been very vocal, and to be honest, I've got nowhere. Why? Because I've been outnumbered all the time. It's the old guard against me. And it's been something that has been a great frustration for me. But I'm determined. We've got to bring about change. And one of the things that we do need to do is we need to streamline the civil service. I'll be very, very clear about that. It's a must. It must be delivered. Why? Because we've been employing 2,000 more full-time equivalents over a 7-year period. It is no wonder why we are funding services by running a deficit, drawing down the reserves, increasing borrowing. That is not sustainable. And we also need to address the cost of living. One of the problems is with the flat rate card. That's not working. We need volume-based discounts. And one of my other priorities is actually to introduce a long-term plan to increase home ownership rates and to also reintroduce mortgage relief. Thank you.
Thank you. Ian Barnes.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ian Barnes, and I'm standing for Deputy in St Helier North because I believe Jersey needs stronger, more practical leadership, and it needs it now. I was born in St Helier North, and having returned to live here, I feel strongly that this is the right time for me to step forward and serve both the parish and the wider island. Over the years, I've been fortunate to build and lead businesses, chair public boards, and work with organisations that play an important role in island life. That experience has shaped how I think. Decisions must be timely, spending must be disciplined, and leadership must be accountable. And at the moment, government is falling short on all three. We are spending more than we generate, borrowing is increasing, reserves are under pressure, and decisions are taking far too long. That isn't just a technical issue, it has real consequences. Families are under financial pressure, businesses face uncertainty, and opportunities are being delayed or lost altogether. Quite simply, this is not a sustainable way forward. My priorities are clear: lower costs, faster decisions, and accountable government. Lower costs means tackling waste, improving efficiency, and ensuring that taxpayers see real value for money they contribute. Faster decision means removing unnecessary delays and ensuring government responds with urgency, because delay has a cost. An accountable government means clear responsibility, transparency, and a culture where results matter. I'm also passionate about tourism and hospitality and the visitor economy. These sectors are central to our economy, our employment, and our identity as an island. They deserve proper representation at ministerial level, and once elected, I will put myself forward to ensure they receive the focus they need. Above all, I will be an independent voice for the people of St Helier North, for working families, and for the industries that sustain our economy. Jersey should remain a place where hard work is rewarded, where people can afford to build a life, and where the future feels secure. I'm standing to restore confidence, improve decision-making, and bring a more disciplined, practical approach to government. If you believe it's time for stronger leadership and better decisions, I would be honoured to have your vote. Thank you.
Victoria Lee.
Good evening, everyone. I have to say, I'm really proud to be here tonight with my fellow candidates. When my uncles stood on Tiananmen Square in 1989, they stood as the opposites. They believed different things, but they stood, because that's what democracy asks of us. I voted in 2022 for the first time in my life, and today I'm standing, because I believe the right to participate is only meaningful if you use it. Every morning I see children and young people walk past me. I can tell if they have had a good day or not. Jersey's school readiness is below England's average. 3 of the last 4 years rated red by the government's own criteria. Children with additional needs waiting too long. 60% of our students who left for uni do not come back. So those are the symptoms, and those are the evidence. They are consistent, and our actions has not been. I believe we can do better. When I first arrived in Jersey, a friend said, if you want to sound like a local, just say, this is not a good place to build a hospital. That made me laugh too. But coming from China, spending £200 million without buying a brick was unimaginable. But now we have the hospital coming here to our constituency, to St Helier North. And we share and we will deliver it in this term. And when we do it, we need to understand we need those roads, we need those pavements, we need those green spaces. We also need carers and doctors to match. I know the gap between aspiration and delivery, and I'm committed to closing it. My name is Victoria Lee, and I would be grateful to have your vote on the 7th of June. Thank you.
Hello and good evening.
Kevin O'Connell, sorry. Give you a name check there, Kevin.
Thank you. Well, again, hello and good evening. As you know, I'm Kevin O'Connell, your Reform Jersey candidate for deputy in this constituency. I first want to thank you for joining us tonight. It is honestly great to see so many of you come out in droves, and thank you to those of you who are watching online. I stand for clarity, accountability, and action. These are the foundations of representation that Helier North can depend on me for. This constituency deserves deputies who will listen, who will act, and who will prioritise those points. Apologies, a little bit nervous this evening. I will work to ensure that growth in the district matches the needs of residents, schools, green spaces, our local infrastructure, and that development must support the community, not overwhelm it. Housing, as we all know, is fundamental and central to our stability. Whether you rent or whether you own, I, in conjunction with my colleagues in Reform Jersey, will continue the good work to secure those affordable homes and improve the standards that we've begun to move toward. I, again, will support actions that bring empty properties back into use, in line with the new tenancy law, so that more islanders can access a secure and stable home. Our health and social services must be strengthened. I personally will support getting the hospital built without delay, and I will push for investment into the stability of our essential services and toward the staff who can deliver them. Retention of key workers is now more important than ever. Education is vital. Our post-16 students need better choice and support, and I will back the work that is already underway to expand apprenticeship and vocational training, and I will seek direct investment from local businesses into opportunities for our young people. Poverty is inexcusable. Reform Jersey has a multi-layered plan focused on housing, income, essential costs, tax reform, and public service improvements. My commitment to you is simple. I will be accountable to this constituency, and I will work within the community.
Thank you very much. Time's up, I'm afraid. There's some seats down the front if you want to come and take a seat. Anybody's at the back? There's plenty of seats down here. Last but not least, Gerald Boysen.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay? My name is Gerald Voisin. I'm a business leader with over 30 years' experience. I was an elected representative of the States Assembly between 1999 and 2005. I know what it's like to run a competitive business, and I now know how to deliver in the public interest. The reason I'm standing for election is because Jersey has three big problems that we must fix. The first is that the cost of living crisis has not gone away and is going to get worse with what's going on in the Middle East. We need to use state policies to consistently bear down on inflation for a long period of time. We need to keep housing costs in check, especially rentals. And also, we need to use our competition regulator to identify why markets are so expensive and what we can do to bring prices down. My aim is a Jersey where wages go further and people can plan their futures with confidence. The second issue is that our island government is spending too much money. Last year, we spent £118 million more than we brought in. That's just not sustainable. We need to undertake a fundamental review of the spending of every department and be honest that we can't afford everything. The third issue is that our economy has not grown by more than inflation for 20 years. That's a disgraceful achievement. We need to readdress how we run the economy. We need to break down barriers, cut bureaucracy, and rebalance the risk and reward that businesses face. We need an economy that is competitive, that rewards risk-taking and hard work. So my priorities are simple. I want to make Jersey affordable. I want to reintroduce controls and discipline over states' expenditure, and I want to grow the economy. Thank you.
Thank you to all our candidates there. Now it's time for your turn. So it's time for questions. A microphone is going to be passed around. And thank you to Margaret, who is going to be our volunteer, who's going to hand it to you. Once you've asked your question, I'll point out who I can see who's asking questions. Once you've asked your question, please hand it straight back to Margaret. Questions must be brief. The political statements are from the candidates, not from yourselves, please. I'll ask you to curtail a question if you don't get to the point. And I'm going to ask you to obviously not be offensive in any way with the questions. You must also ask questions which can be answered by every candidate. So there can't be one question that's just aimed at one candidate. It has to be answered by everybody. I'll take one question from each person at first, and then if we get more time, you can have a second one, and you'll have the opportunity to do that. The candidates are going to speak for 1.5 minutes each, which will again be timed. So, first question, please. First one there.
Hi, my name's Alison. I live in the area. Just for clarification, you will be representing St. Helier North, not the island. We need our own advocacy, and I'm not sure I've heard that from all candidates tonight. St. Helier North is treated like a forgotten part of St. Helier. We're overlooked. We've been turned into a commuter corridor and denied the green space and community facilities we deserve. We are constantly reminded that protecting Havre de Pas bathing pool in Millennium Park is a priority because green space is the important part of a healthy community. Yet no one ever discusses the fact that in North St. Helier, we have nothing. We have our last green field, H1219, that Dandara is scheduled to try to build 59 homes. We've received confirmation today that they will be resubmitting, and I'm sure the community is interested. So my question is, we continue to be burdened by the government's build dense, wear dense policy that favors developer-driven projects over community-led solutions. So my question to you is, if a proposition is lodged in the next assembly to remove that field as housing and to really turn it into what St. Helier needs, that would be wonderful. We don't want to be forgotten anymore.
So your question is what exactly?
When a proposition comes to the states to remove the zoning for that field, would you support it?
Okay, and sorry, can I just ask your name as well when you stand up?
My name's Alison Marshall.
Thank you, lovely. Okay, we're going to kick off then. Steve Ayer, would you support proposition to remove the field?
Well, thank you, Alison, for your question. And obviously I have great knowledge of this particular field. It's not a planted question, I can assure you. But I brought an amendment to the Bridging Island plan to allow this field to be developed purely for people who had disabilities. And this was after conversations with disability groups, and I managed to persuade the Assembly to allow that to go ahead. But as Alison has mentioned, Dandara, although they should be working within those parameters, have had other ideas, and their original plan was turned down by the department, and as she rightly says, it is now going to be brought back. We don't know quite when. But either way, that development will go to the planning committee. And so it will be for the planning committee to make their determination in the first instance. And then even if they do appeal that, that will go to the planning inspector. And as we know, eventually it will go to the minister, whoever the minister is at that time. But as I said in my opening speech, I do want to have a new island plan. And that way, all those specified fields would be reconsidered. But whether that would be in time specifically for field H1219, I very much doubt. But that is my opinion on the subject at the moment. Thank you.
Max?
Yes, my response is simple. Yes, I would support it. I think, although the development is well intended, it's in the wrong area. I'm also very concerned as well with the zebra crossing. There are children who are using it, and of course the entrance is nearby, so it's an accident waiting to happen.
I would also support it, but I think we've got to consider the carefully fine balance here between having a green lung and the use for development into most needed housing. I think it's probably in the wrong place because it's already been mentioned. There's the difficulty with traffic coming out onto a main road there. So it needs to be considered very carefully by planning. But I do support you in your question.
Victoria?
I know the recent application was rejected with 53 rejections coming from the communities. So that's the voice from the community. And if I'm standing for the deputy for the St. Helier North, I am there, I am your voice, and I will listen to your voices.
Yes, I will support the proposition to convert the field. Personally, for me, I believe it's been a concern for a very long time. Reform Jersey have opposed it since 2022, and the reasons for opposing it still hold to this day. Now, I believe the best use for this particular field is not housing at all, but a better option would be to provide it as allotments for learning space where students can develop skills in, say, agriculture, sustainable living, landscape, and this would support education, improve the environment, and avoid adding more strain to the area. Thank you.
Well, I understand that the plans were withdrawn mainly because of traffic congestion and safety. If you're going to build 55 houses on a plot of land as small as that, I would have thought they're pretty difficult barriers to overcome. But certainly I would want to work with the community to listen to their concerns, and if there is middle ground. I mean, at the end of the day, if there's a state's proposition and it can't be overturned because there are a limited number of St. Helier deputies, and if that can't be overturned, then some sort of development may have to go ahead. But can I also, part of Alison's question was, well, you haven't mentioned any local issues. I think one of the best ways I can serve the community actually is by getting the cost of living under control. It is so expensive to live in Jersey, and if we can get that under control, if we can allow young people to stay in Jersey and come back to our homes, that's a step in the right direction.
Thank you. If you want a seat, there's plenty of seats down the front. Okay, cool. Right, next question, please. Gentleman over there. Please, could you say your name when you start your question?
Hello, my name's David Gardner. I live just down the road, and I'd like to know, please give me your 2 St. Helier North specific tasks you will do first. Not for the rest of Jersey, for us.
Thank you. Max, start first.
Yes, well, me and Deputy Gardner have been working for the last 2 years of this term to basically get things moving on the same field, H1219. It's been, half of the field's been purposed for education, and we'd really like to see the facilities be used for the community in the evening. Now, this is not something that's going to be deliverable in the short term, but we certainly need to commence work, and we need to get things moving, and we need to make sure it's delivered by the end of the term. And secondly, I think one of the main things is traffic. Just speaking to several constituents, they feel that the signposting isn't very good, especially at Lepukale, and that's one of the things that I will definitely be onto. Thank you.
Well, I know we're talking specifically about St. Helier North District, but I think what I'm going to say applies to the whole island. And the first thing that needs to be sorted out is the cost of living, because everything else follows suit, really, wherever you live in the island. That's the most important thing that has got to be brought about through the creation of extra wealth. In terms of the district itself, obviously, you all have your own interests in terms of traffic management and things like that. I'm not totally familiar with the problems that exist in this district because I've only moved back into it. So I'm happy to speak to individual parishioners and hopefully come up with with something that, that we can propose through government to satisfy everybody.
So I walked on the roads and I did the door knocking almost across St. Helier North. So for me, and I think I put that on my manifesto, is the top priority is safer roads. Because I can't tell you how worrying that junction is when you drove down from Queen's Road and down to St. John's Road. And we have over 650 students out of Hope Valley walk on that road every single day. And I've heard really sad stories about how one gentleman was on the wheelchair was actually knocking down because of again that uneven pavement. And I also got to know one girl who was, again knocked down by a car passing through her. And then she went into A&E. So those are the things that I think that's the kind of thing, that's our everyday life. And I think safe roads is so important if we are, thinking about another development around that area, the land you were talking about. I can't imagine how you can put exit or entrance there for the land, for the resident area for disabled people. So I can't think of how that is feasible. And the secondly is about green space. One gentleman asked me the other day asked me the question about my attitude towards the dog walker.
Sorry, your time's up.
So, two things that I would do for St Helier North working with Reform Jersey is firstly, we would look to protect the green spaces that we currently have and improve them. We would look to do the same for the schools in the area and build stronger infrastructure, such as parking. We would also provide a stronger voice in the assembly for the locals in this particular district. And we would also be present and accountable.
Thank you. I think the first thing I would want to do is to work to protect the residents around the new hospital whilst the project is being built, because there's no doubt about it, there's going to be a great deal of disturbance, big lorries running up and down the road. That's the first thing. And also, of course, and this isn't the second thing, but the other part of that, of course, is when the hospital is open, how are we going to manage the traffic that's going to go to and from the hospital? Are we going to have blaring sirens at 2 o'clock in the morning? Hopefully not. So I think there's a big bit of work to be done around there. And the other issue, I think, is actually listening to parishioners' concerns about the road closure further up St John's Road. I know that it is, that the traffic is finding its way around all sorts of places. I was quite surprised at how busy Valley de Vaux was the other day. So these are issues. And of course, I'd listen to your concerns over Field 1219 as well.
Steve, yeah.
Thank you. Yes, one thing I would like to do is to have more recycling in the parish, in the area particularly. We used to have a very good facility at St Andrew's Park, and that was taken away some time ago. I would like to see that brought back, but obviously we'll have to press the new constable, whoever that might be, to do that. I hope they're listening this evening. And also to upgrade the facilities at St Andrew's Park. Certainly the play area as well needs some help. And there used to be so many events there when I was young, and that seems to have gone by the way. So we need to bring that back. And the other thing, David, would be road crossings, zebra crossings particularly. We need more zebra crossings on the inner roads, certainly, by the Victoria Cottage homes. We could well do with one. And the advantage of road crossings, once they're put in, is they slow down the traffic as well. So it's a win-win. Thank you.
Okay, next question, please. Come on, you can't be that shy. You must want to ask your deputy something. This one here.
Good evening. Here in St Helier North, and unfortunately across the island, there are people who are victims of modern slavery. You've mentioned about the new hospital that's going to be built in this constituency. That will mean a lot more people coming in on work permits. Jersey is one of the only Western democracies that doesn't have modern slavery legislation. And indeed, you've even seen in the past assembly people who should have been prosecuted under that legislation were it available. So what I want to ask you is, along with some of the outgoing members of the current assembly who've said that they will look to bring legislation to address this in the first 6 months of the new assembly, will you support modern slavery legislation that is robust and will stop the malpractices happening, along with hate crime legislation, and further a review of the 3-year work permit system, which is giving assistance to unscrupulous employers in this area? Thank you.
So that's anti-slavery, hate crime, and also 3-year work permits, starting with Ian.
Yes, I would certainly support your proposal. We need controlled immigration. No criminal checks are ever done, I don't believe, on people that come into this island. We don't have an unemployment problem, but certainly immigration needs controlling. No, sorry, could you repeat your question then, please?
Whether you support modern slavery legislation being brought in to avoid the malpractices and the abuse of workers.
Yes, of course, I would support that, yeah.
Thank you, Patrick, for the question. I did remember you from when I was working with ICC, the International Culture Center. So I had first-hand experience working with those community members, and I do remember those heartbreaking situations, and I absolutely support you with that.
Yes, indeed. I am, of course, committed to creating, with my reform colleagues, modern slavery protections, improved employment rights, and ensuring that all workers are neither exploited or used to undercut local wages or conditions to keep our labour market fair. I'd also like to state that I am a proponent of introducing a hate crime law, because every islander deserves to live with the dignity and safety that come with the promise of this island. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I don't see how anyone could not want to support an anti-slavery piece of legislation. I mean, the whole point is that Jersey's legislative structure, the same as countries the world over, need to keep up to date with things that nasty people do to other people. And so we need to have the right sort of legal structure that we can tackle that with.
Thank you, Patrick, for the question. And we're fortunate to have Deputy Poiret in the room here at the back. And of course, she's brought a proposition on this very topic. And so we're grateful to her for that. And of course, it also is being carried forward by Mary Helier, who's the Minister of Justice and Home Affairs. And that legislation was delayed, but that was purely because there was so much other legislation taking place at the same time. But she has committed to introducing it. And also on hate crime as well, it's the same situation. These things are being progressed and they will be brought, but it's just a matter of time. Thank you.
Yes, no, thank you very much for your question, Patrick. Yes, I can confirm that I do support both pieces of legislation. You mentioned about getting the legislation approved, and I think one of the things that we just need to be mindful of to ensure that the legislation is robust, it will take time. It's about engaging with all the stakeholders who are involved, and then looking at international best practice, and then by that point we'll be bringing it before the Assembly. I'd imagine that would probably be by 2028. And then at least we know it might take a bit of time, I think, but it depends, okay? Okay, well, I'm saying I think it might take a bit of time because that engagement, okay, is really important, and I think we have to get things right, but it will be deliverable, definitely, in the next term of office. Thank you.
Next question, please. Gentleman here at the front. Microphone's just coming.
Thank you very much. Robert Weston from St John's Road. Every time there's an election, I make a habit of asking about red tape. And I've never failed to receive a 100% answer from everybody that they want to do something about red tape. And tonight, for example, we heard from prospective Deputy Voisin that he would want to streamline the civil service. So a good one to try and remove red tape. May I ask each candidate to say just one item that you would feel would seriously reduce red tape, please, and then I'll hold you to it afterwards. Thank you.
Starting with Victoria.
I think that from the perspective of the, I would think that to get back to the special education needs, one of the things that right now, the diagnosis between the time between diagnosis and treatment is about 1 year and a half. And during that time, I don't know what caused it, whether we have limited numbers of the education psychologists on the island, or whether we have just a massive number right now with the students with SEND, so which is the special education needs. But the outcome is there, and the time has been wasted on our students' academic attainment. The parents don't have the support, the teachers are overstretched, and that's one example that I can tell you in the education department, and I am committed to closing that gap and shorten the time for SEN, so which is the special education needs diagnosed time.
Thank you for the question. Reform Jersey and myself are dedicated to reducing the red tape that we do experience by coordinating the departments. That will take some time and some money to get that done, such as Union Street, for argument's sake. We will look to simplify the form filling. So if you've got like 7 or 8 forms that you need to fill in, we'll reduce that down to 2, maybe 3, or even 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, the first thing I would want to look at is the licensing for employees. Every business has to go and ask for licenses to employ people. I think a lot of that is a waste of time, especially when our working population is static. The other thing that I would want to do is to change the requirements for KYC legislation. Sorry, this is the KYC policies implemented by the Jersey Financial Services Commission. At the moment, they are very onerous, they're very manual. When I do business in the UK, I am able to verify my identity by technology, and that doesn't seem to be applicable in Jersey. And by doing that alone, I think we would free up a considerable amount of time among employees of the financial services sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. I've jotted down a couple here. I don't think they'll be the ones you want to hear. Planning restrictions, certainly. Our planning department, obviously, loads of problems with bureaucracy in the planning department. We need to sort them out. But again, it will help if we have a new island plan, because then they will have to refer to it. And so we can cut down on a lot of the red tape in planning. That would be an imperative. Other one is claims for social security. People going in and getting forms to make simple claims for social security, and they're endless. I mean, they could easily be cut down. And what happens is that the people are unable to fill them in themselves, and so they have to go into the department to get assistance, and that causes more expense, basically. And the other one I have is it checks on executives, non-executives of board of directors. They are excessive now. That was brought out because of the Moneyval investigation, and they're very onerous, and I would like to reduce that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert, for the question. For me, personally, what I'd like to see happen is a review panel be set up. In the Environment Department, you've got a directorate and they govern 40 laws. And I think we need to try and streamline those laws, simplify it, and make it easier for businesses. I think so many businesses have been saying to me that, there's so much red tape. And so that's one of the things that we need to get on with and we need to deliver in the next term of office. One of the other things as well, it depends on whether the minister, wants to take the lead, and it really depends on who that person is. But potentially the work could be carried within the department instead of a review panel. So you've got one of two options there. So thank you.
I think the obvious one is got to be planning. I don't know whether you realise almost 30% of planning applications are not achieved in their stated time for approval. If that was relaxed, it would be a lot easier. We'd get more houses built. We also need to grow Jersey beyond finance and grow wealth here by encouraging extra business to come to Jersey. With all the planning and the other bureaucratic rules and regulations that there are, it's very difficult to start a business over here. In fact, just to get an application in takes 6 months before there's any sort of approval comes. So planning, I think, is probably one of the most important issues that needs to be resolved.
Thank you. Next question, please. Gentleman at the back in the grey T-shirt.
Hi, Colin Lever. Quick question, I think. There's an issue on the island about speeding vehicles, as has been made aware of in the JP, and particularly to St Helier North, on Valley de Vaux, on Le Pucalet, on Rue de Montalabé, etc. How would you resolve this issue, bearing in mind we have the technology already to cure that?
So how would you solve speeding vehicles?
How would you resolve the issue of speeding vehicles on our roads, particularly to this bit?
And that question first goes to Kevin.
Thank you for your question. I do have to say that I don't know enough about the issue presently, so I would like to have a conversation with you later, if that's all right. Thank you.
Maybe a few more bobbies on the beat would help. I have to say, I don't know, can't remember when I last saw a policeman, but I take it you're referring to speed cameras. Yes. Well, yeah, why not? We do in Jersey have a speed camera. I've never seen it. Sorry? Yeah. Yeah, the camera. Yeah. Well, that's obviously something that we need to take up with the police at some stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin, for the question. Obviously, there are concerns. A number of roads, like Montalabé particularly, though, we do have speed bumps there. I know you don't in Valley de Vaux, and maybe some speed bumps in Valley de Vaux would assist you in your area. But we have already passed legislation to allow for mobile speed cameras, and as has been said, there's definitely one in the island already, but we're unsure why it hasn't been implemented yet. That would be down to the Minister for Infrastructure, and obviously he hasn't put it out to any good use as at this time. There are a lot of vehicles in the middle of the night. We get a number of complaints driving around at huge speeds at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. We have the boy races, but that, of course, is a separate issue. That's more of a social issue, and the police are trying to take as much charge of that as they can. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Colin, for the question. Speed cameras is the way forward. Okay, that's the only way how we can have oversight 24/7. We've had officers from the parish who've been patrolling certain roads, and as soon as the vehicles see that there is a yellow vis jacket, of course, what do? They slow down. So it's the only way forward. I've asked a couple of questions, in fact, in the Assembly about this, and at the time, the Home Affairs Minister didn't have it on the top of her list in terms of her priorities, but it's certainly the way to go. And I also would say as well, with some of the boy races as well, I think we need to be scrapping some of their vehicles. That's a deterrent in itself, and I think that is something that we should probably be doing a lot more often.
Yes, in terms of road safety, the only way that can be controlled is through speed cameras. Obviously, in certain places on the island where they tend to race around at night. But at the end of the day, I mean, what is a bit of a joke are these cardboard cutout policemen with a radar gun? I think we can all recognise them from a long way. So they need to implement and perhaps use more the speed cameras in certain areas. I'm not saying all areas, but in the roads where it's unsafe to speed.
I just have to apologize. I realize I have been sitting here to answer the questions all the time just because I'm wearing a dress, and Gwen has kindly checked about whether that covers my legs. So sorry, I will stick with it. Thank you, Colin, for your question. I think with regard to the speed in the daytime, because I don't have the figure in front of me, so I can't really guess the situation, but I know that there is some joyriding and speed riding, like speeding in the evenings, because some youngsters, unfortunately, that's what they choose that they want to do. So I think full implementation can be very tricky, and I agree with other candidates mentioned about the cameras, and if again our government can actually deliver one camera, maybe they can deliver the next 10 cameras. But I think education is important here. We need to talk with the young people and engage with them and let them understand about the importance of being responsible drivers, because other pedestrians' lives are in their hand if they chose to do something dangerous. And I think that needs to come through education.
Next question, at the front here.
Thank you very much. Magda Chmielewska, Honorary Consul of Poland. As a diplomat, last year I had a case, a very sad case, of a person, a lady with a Jersey-born child, ending up on the streets of Jersey. I've reached out to the minister. I had no response, no help. 3 weeks being sent from post to pillar. That person has been helped by Andium only because I put a plea, public plea, on a Facebook, which head of Andium seen, contacted me saying that in fact he's got 137 flats available. Why Andium isn't doing anything with, why housing isn't doing anything with. So for 3.5 weeks, we had a trauma out of this planet. My question is, whether you agree we have a problem with homelessness and there is no emergency accommodation for people in need. And another question, what are you going to do about? Thank you.
Okay, so emergency accommodation, and what will you do about it?
Thank you, Magda. I'm shocked to hear that somebody was a young lady put out on the street with her child, and I'm particularly frustrated to hear this because there were places. Bernardo's had a place in Kensington Street. There were other houses available for these people to go, and they were basically shut down by states of Jersey regulations. So I'm really quite annoyed about that. Really, I mean that's disgraceful. So yes, I did not appreciate that there was no emergency accommodation for these sort of people. So of course we've got to do something about it. We can't have young ladies out on the street with their babies. That should not be happening in Jersey. Okay.
No, obviously I couldn't disagree with the last speaker at all. It's a terrible situation, but obviously the housing minister does publish a homelessness strategy, and it is updated a number of times, twice a year, I believe. And it was only updated about 3 months ago because there was a report that was published on it. But whether that benefits the actual people who are requiring the assistance is another matter. Exactly. But they are trying to work towards a strategy, but they're not implementing that strategy. And that, Magda, is obviously the housing minister's remit, and he is the person, whoever the housing minister will be, it is their responsibility to address that issue. Thank you.
At the moment, we have a dedicated team. They're called the Housing Support Team, and they deal with such emergencies. And in my role as a deputy, that's where I come into it, and that's where I can help. Okay, I can make a difference. You know, we've got a very good team there, and they do manage to resolve cases, emergency cases where people have been, you know, thrown out in the past, and then it's quickly resolved. And, you know, okay, some people have maybe been put in temporary accommodation, okay, but then, you know, we do work towards securing longer-term accommodation for them. Okay, thank you.
I'm actually appalled that there's no emergency accommodation. I hadn't appreciated that. I know we have shelters, but I think they're always full. So obviously that's something that needs addressing. I wouldn't know what to suggest, but I'm sure there are some options. It sounds as if it's already being addressed in the government now. So no. Okay, something needs to be done about it then.
First of all, thank you, Magda, for being there for the lady who going through tremendous stress and being homeless and with her child. Really appreciate that. And I know how much you have done for your community for the time that since I knew you. And I am not surprised. And that's how sad it is when you have such a big government with so much bureaucracy there. One thing I can promise you is if I get elected, I will collaborate and I will be there to serve.
Thank you. So, we do cover homelessness in our manifesto, and Magda, I hope the lady and her child are doing well. Now, we know it is an issue on the island. It is starting to become endemic, if you will. Reform Jersey have decided that we will enshrine a definition of homelessness into Jersey law, and we will oblige all government departments to support those who are at risk and currently homeless. We can only do that if we have enough people, enough reform members in government to get that done. So that is what we're saying, that is what we will do. Thank you.
Next question. Lady in the middle here in the grey jacket.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Tamara, and a lot of you have mentioned about getting control of government spending. So on an island-wide question, the department that is really out of control is health. But it's also a very difficult area, so I would like to know your ideas of what you would propose or what you would support in terms of controlling the health budget.
Starting with Steve, yes.
Thank you, Tamara. And I think it's quite clear that the budget on health is going to go up quite a lot over the next 4 or 5 years, because the health minister currently wants to have a 4-site hospital. So the first thing I believe we need to do is get the acute hospital built, but at the same time investigate the possibilities of not having 4 or 5 different sites to lower costs. There are an estimated 170 new members of staff required for the acute and the ambulatory hospital and the Enith Kenneth Hospital, and the costs will run completely out of control. And obviously, if we would have stuck with our hospital in the first instance, it would have been nearly finished now, and we wouldn't have had those excessive costs, and we wouldn't have the problem with clinical adjacency, because everybody would have been in the same place. So that would lead to a huge saving, and that, I believe, is something that must be done. Thank you.
One of the main issues that I've witnessed across the last 4 years, we've been dealing with an overspend in health. And then the Council of Ministers have then been bringing forward what we call growth bids. So that's new recurring expenditure, and it's just worsening the overspend. What we need to be doing is delivering an efficiency savings program in health and in all other departments as well. And then we just need to focus on what the essential services are. If there are any services that we need to add, okay, then we need to find a funding source. But we also must recognise that at the moment we are having to contend with a public sector deficit of 118 million for 2025. We need to balance the books, and the message has not really been clear from the Council of Ministers. We've not seen efficiency savings programmes being delivered. And then, what we also then need to contend with as well is not bringing forward additional growth bids, because that's going to exacerbate the issues over the next 4 years. So thank you very much, Tamara, for the question.
People just don't worry about healthcare. They worry about getting sick, long-term health, lifestyle, stress. So the important thing is prevention rather than cure. We don't have a healthcare system, we have a sickness system. So the shift needs to be preventing illness in the first place. That's very important. So that would be my strategy, prevention instead of cure.
Whenever we have the budget question, it always stops at the premises. It always stops at the premises. I think what we really need to understand is about the outcome. And that's get back to return on investment. So how much you spend, what's the outcome, how do you care the people, and how do you serve our aging population here? Before I came to the Hustings, I received an email from Sophie Reed, who recently recovered from brain cancer. And the email that she sent to me, she was talking about the neurological support, and they did a survey themselves. So one of the things they learned is that the 90% of the people who live in Jersey with neurological conditions are not happy with the service. So this is one of my. So I did a quick check on the website of the Neurological Alliance in the UK. They estimated 1 in 6 people live with a neurological condition, and if we apply that to Jersey, that means 17,000 of islanders. And based on that survey, when they say 90% of the people say they're not happy with the service, that is our families, that's our neighbors. So I think, again, look back. I think we need to be really understanding where is the return on investment and be careful with our budget.
Perfect, Anna.
Thank you for the question. We must build the hospital. We must also focus on key worker retention. Now that is a cost to the public that they deserve, we as the public, deserve clarity on. Now, it's my understanding that when all is said and done and we have this Foresight hospital built, it will have cost us over £1 billion. We do need to get to a point where we can say, why has it cost us £1 billion or more? And from that point, we need to ensure it doesn't happen again. Now, it is clearly laid out within our Reform Jersey manifesto what we're going to do with the budget. And Reform Jersey have always built on realistic, costed and committed programs that focus on the public. Again, historically, we have delivered on the essentials, such as housing, education, and protecting those under the greatest pressures. Thank you.
Sorry, do you want to sort your phone out before we continue? And just a reminder, everybody, please put your phones on silent so it doesn't disturb people when they're talking. Sorted? Gerald.
Thank you very much. Right, can you hear me okay? Well, when I said in my opening address that we needed a fundamental review of spending in each department, yes, the same goes for the health department. And I have to say, I've also heard these rumours about how much this multiple health system, multiple site health service is going to cost. And we do need to review that before we actually press the green button to go. We have got to go ahead with the hospital at the top of Westmount because we're committed to that. We've got to do it, and it would be a travesty, a terrible waste of money actually if we reverse that. But it's the other sites Do we have to go ahead with them? Can they be more efficient? Can we combine or reduce that into just one extra site and not multiple? But the thing is, I don't believe the problem is in the frontline staff. The problem is in the administrators that are behind that, and that's what we need to look at. And you know, that is the same with so many departments in the States. There are an awful lot of civil servants, and they're the ones, I'm afraid, that we've got to look at for the future if we're going to get rid of this £100 million deficit.
Next question, lady over here.
Good evening, and thank you very much to all the candidates for what we've heard so far. My name is Jane Reed. We've heard already about a threat to one green lung, one part of St Helier in field H1219, which is under threat of development. We've also heard a great deal about traffic problems in St Helier North, and we're all familiar with them, I'm sure. My question to the candidates is this: what is their offer on things like environmental protection and possibly even reduction of carbon emissions? Is there anything specific to St Helier North that they would like to propose which would deal with either of those two aspects? I don't want to mention the dread words climate change, but I think they are in the forefront of many young people's minds. Okay.
Yes, no, thank you.
Did you hear my question?
I did indeed, yes. I think, to be honest with you, that would really be relating to the entire island. But I think as deputies of St Helier North, we're here, okay, to be looking out for our constituents' interests. And so if there is any developments, okay, that are coming forward, a bit like with H1219, then we've also got a duty there to be listening to people and to be taking appropriate action, okay, to be opposing such developments as well. But when we're speaking about, say, emissions, that's more from the States Assembly. Okay, that's where decisions would be made, and it wouldn't be localised down to, say, one constituency. It would extend all the way through, sprawling all 9 constituencies. Well, yes, no. I agree with what you're saying, but I'm saying it would extend everywhere, not just St Helier North. Okay.
Well, I'm sure you know there is, in fact, a net zero roadmap, and Jonathan Renouf, currently in the States, is very much the environmentalist. It's very easy to say we should reduce traffic, but we all rely on our vehicles to get to work. This is the problem. I think probably the one thing that we could encourage people to do is to use the bus more. And I've always said for a long time we should have these satellite parking outside of St Helier, for instance, where people park their cars and then bus into town. As my colleague says, it's not just St Helier North that suffers from exhaust emissions. It's more concentrated in certainly central St Helier. So I think encourage people, make it easier, and I think they're doing a reasonable job at the moment to use public transport.
So I came from Beijing. Imagine the pollution. I think for me, the answer would be trees. I don't know if you agree with me or not. I know in 2022 that Jersey voted 44-1 to actually have legislation to protect the trees. And then we reversed. I think that's the kind of thing, it's because it's really hard to implement. I don't know if you know about the Sycamore Gap. So that was one man, one night, and the landmark was gone forever. So I think for me, that is the kind of thing I would push that back to the agenda, because we have one island, and I don't want the pollution to come here.
Thank you. So, Jane, wonderful question. Thank you. Regarding Reform's stance on the environment, our points are that we will protect Jersey's natural environment, which is a crucial part of what makes our island such a special place. And what we will do is protect and enhance our urban and countryside green spaces, including our marine environment, which will be covered in the upcoming island plan. We will ensure a just transition by supporting green initiatives that ease the pressure of energy costs and enhance our quality of life. We will also introduce a new transport policy that incorporates the improved bus service, which was provided to us as well as a under-18s policy by Deputy Rob Ward, our Education Minister. This will incorporate cycle routes, as I said, the bus service and active transport infrastructure that will make sustainable travel easier and more accessible. Thank you.
For fear of being booed, I think actually that Jersey's doing quite well in reducing carbon emissions. I see more and more electric cars on the road. I see thousands of cyclists cycling to town and out of town along the front at St Albans. So I don't think we're doing too badly. If I'm being asked to, in this complete review of spending of the states, if I'm being asked to ring fence green projects that cannot be touched in our spending review, then I'm afraid I'm not with you. Those savings may have to be made if we're going to get rid of our £118 million deficit. But generally, of course, we all live here. We enjoy the environment, and we shouldn't be wanting to stop traffic. It's the pollution. So there's nothing wrong with lots of cars on the road if all electric cars not producing pollution, I would have thought.
Thank you, Jane, for the question. And just a quick commentary on H1219 was mentioned that it was going to be developed and we could somehow turn it over. That was in the original island plan. So it was always going to be developed as housing. I just brought an amendment for a specific reason, use of that housing. In regard to environmental issues, I believe we should encourage the reduction of liquid natural gas. I know Jersey Energy have tried to press to have biofuels as a replacement, but they haven't made much progress, and so they need to be encouraged more in that area. We need to secure our marine protection areas, obviously ensuring at the same time that we protect our fishing industry, but also saving our fishing beds as well. We also need to concentrate on our coastline management plan. With the rising sea levels, there is a plan to protect Hovde Par, the whole area. It's a very expensive plan and it will take an awful lot of time, but we do need to start doing it now, because if sea levels come up much higher, there's going to be terrible flooding in that area, so we need to work on that. Also, the Eastern Cycle Network as well, to encourage more cyclists. That has been in the pipeline for a long time, but we're struggling to fund it and get it completed. But I think we should be able to do that within the next 4 years, and I'm fully behind the Cycle Network. Thank you very much.
Any more questions? Gentleman here in the white-ish shirt.
Hello, my name's Joel Lucas. I've kind of got a two-part question for the candidates, and it's all about young people in the island. I've actually come with my daughter tonight, so I'm going to embarrass her. She's not actually old enough to vote, but she was interested enough to come along with me to hear what was going on. I think the question is partly to do with her. How will you encourage young people to get involved in island politics? We've got someone sat just in front of me here who's perhaps an advocate of that, I might say. And the second part is we heard a lot from the constable candidates about what they might do to provide areas for young people to go and hang out, to be safe, secure, and not just hanging around McDonald's on a Friday night. So that's kind of my two-part question is, what would you do to encourage engagement, and what would you do to give young people somewhere to go and enjoy themselves?
Okay, straightforward, Ian. Thank you.
I agree. Our young voters are a large proportion of the local population. I think the Candidates' Fair was a very interesting initiative because there were students present and they were genuinely interested in politics. I think it just needs to be perhaps encouraged more in schools. I know we've got an advocate in here tonight who's set the ball rolling, but we need younger voters voting because we have a very small percentage turnout anyway. I think it's about 41%, which is one of the lowest in the OECD countries. So obviously with the students being or the younger generation being a larger percentage of our vote, we need them to vote and take an interest in politics. And possibly it starts in the schools.
I don't see anything wrong with actually going to McDonald's. I love McDonald's, first of all. But you shouldn't visit there every single day or every single week. That should be a treat. I think for me, I started my TikTok account 2 weeks ago. I'm trying to encourage the young people. It's because, it just because those topics, particularly the questions we have tonight are very kind of like up high there. And I think young people don't really see that, one of the student actually asked me the question whether I can reduce the price of McDonald's. So he definitely see the link of that. And I think it's, again, how to make it engaging and how to explain to you guys in the simplest term. It's like, one example is about Fort Region. So that's one of the things that we have been keep talking, and we want to engage with young people about it. And I think that topic, it has been a little bit like nostalgia to me. And I think when I spoke with the young people, all of them were saying is because the Jersey summer is great. They have great places. They can go to the beach, hang out with their friends. It's when it's not the summertime. So how do we actually understand? And my next goal is to work with the new constable and to figure out the underused land for the purpose for the young people to have to create space for you to social.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Joel. Regarding young people and encouraging youth in politics, first of all, I just want to state that we have a youth assembly, okay? And we can promote this a little bit better. I'm sure we can. And as politicians, I'm sure that we can cultivate their interests and perhaps mentor them more than we already do. Now, again, we do cover in the manifesto what we're able to do and what we have provided presently. We have currently got delivery of the new youth centre in town, which will be followed by a new youth centre in Liscay. Now, that will replace a facility that is fast approaching the end of its life. Now, we're also going to commit to implementing the vision for a restored Fort Regent, so it once again can become a space where children and young people can enjoy a variety of leisure facilities. Now, again, in our last manifesto, we also committed, this covers young children, we also committed to extending free childcare for 2 to 3-year-olds. And now we are proud to have achieved that earlier this year with the introduction of 15 free hours. And we are looking to expand that in the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. As Kevin said, there is the youth assembly, and what happens there is that young people put their name forward to go and sit in the States Assembly, and they have debates as if they were a States member, and I think that's actually very encouraging. I think that perhaps what we should be doing also is to introduce more subjects on politics along with the history of Jersey that's taught in schools. Because, of course, our curriculum must be about Jersey's history and how our history has been shaped by our politics. As far as what do 16-year-olds do, well, there are lots of sports clubs in Jersey, so I don't know if there's a sport that you particularly like, or a hobby club. There are lots and lots of hobby clubs in Jersey that you can sign up to be a member of. It's just a question of Googling your particular hobby, and I'm sure that you'll find a club in Jersey that will welcome you as a member.
Thank you, Joel. Yes, there are a number of initiatives to involve states members with the schools. That's run by the state's GREF, and there's a program whereby states members go and they speak to students, and I think that's very well received. Also, the Youth Assembly, the PPC brought a proposition just this year whereby the Youth Assembly will be able to make a presentation once per year to the States Assembly. So for the first time, they will be able to present directly to the States Assembly. So that's wonderful for the children who are involved in that. We are lucky to have Rob Ward here tonight, and obviously he brought forward in 2018 the North of St Helier Youth Centre concept, and fortunately it is now being built on the old Ann Street site. Hallelujah, says Rob. And that it's a wonderful progression there. It's a very expensive project, but it's going to be absolutely superb. And we also have the First Tower Community Centre in our own district, which it's wonderfully utilised, and I'd just like to make a quick shout out for Senator Ted Vibert, who helped to promote that, and of course Deputy Mike Higgins, who did wonderful work to get that freed up, and with funding from the states, we managed to complete it, and it's really well used by the youth. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a fascinating question. In fact, one of my policies, I intend to look at revising the PSHE curriculum for Year 9 students. The young people that I've been engaging have been informing me that they feel they don't know enough about Jersey's economy or anything about Jersey politics, tax, or the social security system. Those are the things that we need to be teaching our children. So that will have to go to the Curriculum Council and also with the Minister's approval as well. And I think that way, if we are engaging young people from the ages of, say, 13 and 14, then they will be aware of what politics is and what it means to them. Because some people are unfortunate and they don't get taught it at home. So that's really the reason why it has to be taught in schools. And to answer the second part of your question, I'll just go back to H1219. We've already got half of the field, purpose for education, but also after school hours, that's where we want young people to be using the facilities. So thank you for the question. Thank you.
Next question. Lady in the striped top there.
Hi, my name's Diane. There's not enough disabled spaces in town. How are you going to create more, and how are you going to police them?
Is this parking spaces?
Yeah,
I assume?
parking spaces.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so how are you going to create more disabled parking spaces? And that first goes to Victoria.
I think my goal is to work with the next constable, because we need to be more cautious about supporting those people having access to those facilities. And we are having an Asian population, and we need to really being proactively to design it and plan for more.
Thanks for the question, Diane. So with respect to disabled parking, we need more of it in particular areas. Parking itself is something that is in short supply within the island. We all know this. We can't. Many times we've had a situation where we've been trying to park and we can't get anywhere. Now, I, as a disabled man myself with lymphedema, I do need to get a hold of a blue badge, so thank you for reminding me. We do have an opportunity to build on certain areas. There may be opportunity to, say, take over certain car parks and rebuild them, especially within the St Helier North area. The one just behind Le Jardin du Soleil comes to mind. Okay. What we've got at the moment is a situation where most of us are parking along the front. If we need to go take the dog for a run, something like that, it's not sustainable. Well, salt at least. Now, a well-managed transport network is going to make our lives easier. We need to be able to also think about reduction of the amount of cars that we've got on the road with either an electric fleet, more buses, and again, taking from Rob Ward's bus pass for the under 18s. That's taken effect and it's reduced congestion. We need something more like that. Again, all of this is covered within Reform Jersey's manifesto, which will be available to everybody shortly. So
thank you.
Thank you for the question, Diane. Take care.
Thank you. It's interesting because the parking issue in St Helier has been going on for many years, ever since the Gas Place car park was removed, and more recently Broad Street was closed. So a lot of people say to me that they can't, not only can they not get into the very centre of town, but they don't have any, we've lost those disabled parking bays that we had there. I think this is going to be part of a bigger issue, which is that we've got to provide better parking in St Helier. It's interesting, so many people say to me, oh, we need to revitalise the town centre, we need to get people back into town. Well, the thing is, people come into town in a car most of the time, and yes, we all want them to leave their car at home and take the bus, but the trouble is, if you live in the northern parishes, very often you can't take a bus because it doesn't go within a mile of your home. So I think this whole issue actually is going to come back to the surface again, because we've got to get St Helier busy and vibrant again, and we're going to do that by allowing people to drive close to town and park properly. And when we do that, of course, we'll be able to provide some better disabled parking.
Thank you, Diana. Yes, there are a plethora, actually, at the moment, of disabled parking spaces. Sand Street's car park on the ground floor, there's a number there, and a lot of them often not used. We have got more parking spaces for the disabled now than we've ever had before. Although you may not think it, the infrastructure department has been working tirelessly to create more and more disabled spaces. So that's good news, I think, for everybody. The only one that was criticised was the back of the hospital, because they lost 1 or 2 parking spaces at the back of the hospital. But obviously when the new hospital is built, the acute hospital, there will be plenty, ample parking for the disabled once again. But we do need a new car park in St Helier generally. So many people struggle to find parking spaces, and because of the planning laws stating that you don't need to build any parking spaces for developments that are built, we just need a new car park, including plenty of disabled bays. Thank you.
Yes, no, thank you for the question. I think the important thing is here, you've got to commission work. So first and foremost, you need to identify, well how many people are disabled, how many people are going to be coming into town. Okay, you've got to work out what the capacity is, and you've got to work out what your existing capacity is, and then you work from there. It's really an operational matter, and it would be the responsibility of the Minister for Infrastructure. There'd have to be engagement as well at a parish level too. But it's definitely becoming more prominent, and I've noticed the last 2 to 3 years, people have become more vocal because obviously they've been coming to town and they've not managed to get any parking. So of course it's a concern, and I think, as I just really mentioned at the beginning, it's about commissioning the work to be done, but it's also having to review the work continually as well to see how progress is being made. Thank you.
I feel that overall it's a traffic management problem. The other thing that happens, there are less and less street parking now for people, whether they're disabled or not. And the other important thing is the abuse of these parking spaces needs to be policed better. I know Terry Lamau always posts on Facebook and takes photographs of people who don't have a blue badge, and that's on a fairly regular basis. So I think, getting back to my previous remark about having satellite parking out of town to encourage people to bus in would allow more spaces for disabled parking.
Next question. A second question's coming, so anybody else who wants a first question? So you're all here and you don't have questions? Yes, over here.
Hi, good evening. Mark Le Chevalier. We've talked a lot about young people, but we haven't talked about
The candidates have decided they don't want to take questions from other candidates, sorry. Okay. If he's in the parish. But anybody else want to make a question? The second question, first question, yes, lady there.
Hello. There was much talk about getting a handle on the cost of living. Could you get specific, please?
So you want specific measures that candidates would take about grappling the cost of living, and that will go first to Kevin.
Could I ask for your name? Sorry, could I ask for your name? And I do apologise, I'm just going to stay sitting as my legs begun to hurt.
Liz Le Poitevin.
I'm sorry,
Liz Le Poitevin.
Thank you for the question, Liz. So you're asking specific, how we would specifically tackle cost of living. Well, again, broken record, sorry, but it is in our manifesto. So the way that we're going to do that, we're going to implement measures to reduce the burden on on islanders. Now, with respect to that, what we're going to look at is cost of housing, removing GST from food and other essentials. Pardon me just 1 second, I do apologise. Oh, sorry. Okay. And generally speaking, we're just going to look at making things easier for locals. So, apologies, I'm losing track here. I'm still quite nervous. Yeah, it's all in the manifesto. We will cover all of that there. So I do apologise. So.
Okay, there are two key areas. The first thing is that the States of Jersey actually is a big driver of the increase in cost of living. And what we've got to do is to look at every we've got to look at every policy they have through a filter of, is this going to increase the cost of living or not? And if it is going to increase the cost of living, then we've got to say either, no, we're not going to do it, or we'll do it a lot less. So increases of duty of cigarettes, tobacco, this sort of thing, it does have an impact on the cost of living. So, I mean, this is an issue that actually was a problem when I first joined the Finance and Economics Committee last century. God, that shows how old I am. And we did this by just making sure that everything the states did, we looked at it, is it going to increase the cost of living or not? I mean, why on earth did we go for a ferry operator that was only going to traffic 2/3 of the freight, whereas the old one trafficked 3/3 of the... I mean, of course it was going to be more expensive. So that's the first thing. The other thing is that where there is a real problem, then we need to get the competition regulator to look at it. I'll give you an example, building costs. Now, how many of you are paying a colossal amount of money to insure your house because the cost of building it is enormous? Well, we need to get the regulator to understand why it's so expensive.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz, for the question. Just a quick comment on GST on food, because it was mentioned previously. And of course, there is already a community cost bonus, which is specifically designed to compensate people for that money. So all those who are low earners receive the community cost bonus to cover the GST on food. It's also interesting to note that our current retail price index is running at 2.7% increase, down from 2.8% at the end of last year, which is actually lower than the UK, and that is very unusual for us in Jersey because it always used to run at about 1% higher. So something is going right for a change. I personally, obviously, as I said previously, I would not like to see any impo duty rises for 1 year. I would like a reduction in fuel duty. As we mentioned before, the freight costs have to be readdressed. And that all revolves around the food supply. And what we do need is we want a low-cost budget supermarket. I know there has been some investigations on getting a French supermarket to come over, but it's finding a place for them to build. And as we know, that all reverts back to planning, and planning won't allow it. So those are the difficulties that we face. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. One of the things that has to be addressed is the flat rate card with DFDS. I was on the review panel, and we heard from quite a few suppliers that the flat rate card was inflationary, whereas before with Condor, they were used to volume-based discounts. And we've also heard evidence as well that prices have consequentially gone up as due to the flat rate card being imposed by the Council of Ministers. So that has to be rescinded, and I think we need to make sure that we return to volume-based discounts. One of the other things that I would have to mention here is government expenditure. It's become embedded inflation in the economy because we've seen fiscally expansionary budgets across the last 4 years being approved. And one of the measures that I would like to see happen across the next 4 years is we index payments, okay? So you don't want to be giving, for instance, pay awards above the rate of inflation. Why? Because there's going to be local spend in the economy, and that's going to have an impact in terms of prices for everybody. So you just need to be cognizant of that. And unfortunately, I think over the last 4 years, we've seen too much of the wrong decisions being taken. We saw that with public sector workers, for instance, receiving those pay awards. As much as I agree that public sector workers need to be paid, but the excess has contributed to inflation. Thank you.
Well, if you can't afford to live in Jersey, nothing else matters. So we need to do something about it. We need affordable housing. We need faster housing approvals, which is important, so red tape again with planning issues. And we need to reduce pressure on everyday costs. And obviously one of those significant costs is food. There has been talk about talking to Aldi and Lidl, but apparently they wouldn't be interested in coming to Jersey, so the obvious ones are the French supermarkets. We are very closely linked with Normandy and Brittany, so I would like to review the situation with the supermarkets that are here and consider bringing the discount supermarkets from France to Jersey. That would reduce our cost of living considerably, because that's where we spend most of our money apart from housing.
Thank you, Liz, for the question. Cost of living isn't just one problem, and unfortunately in Jersey we have several, and they're all stacked on top of each other. Housing costs here is more than London, and 80% of the lower income renters are in rental stress, which means that they actually 30% of their net income goes to the rents. Although the headline of inflation was 2.6% last year, lower than the UK, however, we have the low income RPI was 3.9%. So cost of living pressure is also significant for families with dependent children, and for those aged 35 to 54. I'm in that bracket too. Age Concern Chair Ben Shenton also noted that the food and heating are also the two costs for pensioners. And so the heat or eat question is an issue for increasing numbers of young families as well as our senior citizens. So as a deputy, I can't set the prices. I know that I disappointed the boy who asked me to reduce the price for McDonald's. But I will scrutinize every major development decisions, and I will push the housing, and I will push the financial support for 2 to 3 years old, and hopefully to extend to pre-nursery provision as well.
Victor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, last chance for first-time question. Lady at the back in the pink there, right at the very, very back of the room. We'll get on to second questions once we've had first chances.
My name is Iris Fritz. Good evening, everybody. This question may only come to pass after your term of office, but I want to throw it in there anyway. We all know digitalization, automation, etc., is ever on the increase. As a result of that, we will have the middle income, the admin office jobs will fall away. We still need the laborers, the manual jobs, the plumbers. We will still have the senior management layer, but the people in the middle, which is probably a large proportion of people, will probably be replaced, which gives you a big hole in your income tax income, because AI don't pay no income tax, and it gives you potentially a load of unemployed people. How are you going to approach this to get a transition in there so that those of us who find ourselves unemployed in 3 years' time are not on the dole and being told off that we're lazy so-and-so? It's because we haven't got a job.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the question is, what will you do about AI taking jobs from people, and how will you retrain people, I guess?
Yeah, I think there was two parts to that actually, is how are we going to make sure there are jobs for you, and how are we going to address the hole in the tax? Yeah, okay. Well, as far as addressing the hole that this is going to, in our taxes, that it's going to cover, is a really important issue. And that's one of the reasons why we've got to take steps to start to grow the economy now. And when I say grow the economy, I mean one of the big things that we should be doing is to remove the risk for businesses to for individuals to set up businesses on their own. At the moment, it's just too risky, and people aren't setting up their own business, and they're not employing other people. And that's what we've got to encourage people to establish businesses and also to employ other people. And that, incidentally, that dynamism of new businesses being created also keeps existing businesses on their toes so that they keep their prices down, which helps with the inflation problem earlier on. Question. But the other thing is that there is going to be a tremendous onslaught of AI being used to replace people. And I think that what we've got to do is to allow people to see opportunities for how they can use AI to provide a particular service. And that service doesn't have to be provided to businesses in Jersey. It can be provided to businesses off island as well. But the first step is to encourage people to set up a business on their own, and we can do that by removing the risk.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Iris, for the question. Yes, well, is there a possibility of there being more unemployed people through AI being incorporated into businesses? Well, not necessarily. What normally happens is you get more people being required to run the AI. For example, if we considered having a data center, which may be necessary in the future, to ensure that we have all our information stored locally, what would happen? We would need a number of people to be brought over and trained for that very purpose. So new jobs would therefore be created. Also, that would need a large amount of energy as well. And so then you have more people getting employed in the energy sector, possibly through an offshore wind farm, which would employ a number of other people. So there's lots of possibilities for more types of employment. But on the other topic, we need more apprenticeship schemes when it comes to plumbers and general manual workers and all the requirements that we need for living and building more houses, more construction workers and such like. So more apprenticeship schemes would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Iris, for the question. I think, to be honest with you, I've already delivered a policy in this area. That was with the Skills Development Fund that was launched. And one of the reasons why I created the Skills Development Fund was due to the impacts of AI. So to date, we've had over 2,000 people who've attended courses that is funded by the Skills Development Fund. And it's basically to ensure that, because we've got a tight labour market, if people are unemployed, then we can direct them quickly back into the labour market. It might be in another area where they've maybe not had any experience before, but the whole purpose of the Skills Development Fund is reviewing skill gaps continuously within the economy, and we've got several civil servants who are carrying out that work, and I think they've done a fantastic job the couple of times when I have been meeting them. So I don't really have any concerns about there being a loss in personal income tax. Of course, personal income tax derives about 35 to 39% of government revenue, so that is quite high compared to most jurisdictions, and of course, people quite rightly will be concerned about that. But I do think in this respect, we do need to have more of an interventionist approach. We don't want people to be, on income support for too long, and we need to redeploy them as soon as possible. So I think we've already got, a good skills development fund there, and we just need to make sure that we continue to use it. Thank you.
There's no doubt about it. AI is going to affect our business here considerably, not in the next 5 years, in the next 2 years. So we need to be planning now for it. Obviously, the labour pool, the availability of staff is going to be more. So the only way to be able to get those people to be re-employed is to encourage new businesses on the island. So again, that's removing red tape, being able to establish a business here a lot easier, because there's going to be more unemployment here unless we build the number of companies that can employ people. Thank you.
I agree with you, and I think AI integration and automation isn't really distant threats anymore. They have already started to shape our labour market and already changing the skills that needed to enter the market now. So what we need is digital skills strategy that needs to run from our primary school to our workforce retraining. And we have to treating digital literacy as one of the foundational skills for our students. So which means coding, data literacy, critical thinking about technology from early years. And for adults already in the workforce, we need to provide accessible training programs for them. Because the result is going to be either we get ahead of this or let our workforce be disrupted without support.
So thank you, Iris, for the question. We do know that digitalization is a massive, massive thing. It's progressed in the past 30 years. And we now have language learning models that are building templates for us. And it's potential that within the next 4 or 5 years, there could be replacements in career fields such as law, politics even, and education. Now, the way that Reform Jersey would likely look at AI replacement is through workers' rights. Now, we're a pro-workers' rights party, and we, of course, support trade unions. We would campaign for better conditions at work under a reformed Social Security minister. Many of our previous manifesto commitments were placed to enhance worker rights, and we would work with AI to cover that. Again, more can be found in the manifesto. Now, what we also need to look at is choice after 16. So young people have been telling us that they need greater choice earlier on. They need opportunities that will extend access to their education when they are entering, when they're entering their careers. Now, again, we do have the ability to build that digital education and the literacy. And we can begin by building the best possible start for our children.
Thank you, Kevin. Okay, we may only have time for one more question, possibly two. Is there anybody else who has a first-time question? Yep. Sorry, we'll get to second questions if we have time.
Hello, my name's Oscar. I'd like to follow on from that last question, as it's something that means a lot to me as a young person. So I'd like to ask, what will you actually do to diversify the job industry to attract young people back to Jersey, and which industries specifically, please?
Okay, clear question. It goes to Steve Iyer first.
Thank you, Oscar. Diversifying the economy is a very tricky subject, as I'm sure you know, and trying to attract young people back to the island is even a harder problem. I'm sure you yourself are more like going to university or are at university, and once you've gone away to the big cities and you see what life is like in the big cities, as you can imagine, it becomes very, very difficult to attract those people back. So somehow we have to attract them back, either through subsidies of some sort. I mean, obviously, most of the university students do get some subsidies for their university fees. And it would be nice if somehow they could give back something to the island for a couple of years, but finding the right jobs for them, because obviously, as you know, most of them are in banking and in finance, and that is not very attractive to the majority of people. So that is an age-old dilemma, which obviously is something we have to work out.
Thank you very much for the question, Oscar. For me, I think what we need to really be focusing on as a States Assembly is looking at emerging industries such as tech, okay? Because that is a high-income industry, okay? And it's a rewarding industry, especially for young people who are starting off, okay? It's quite well paid. And one of the things that I think we as a States Assembly need to be doing is we need to be instilling confidence, okay? We need to be a pro-business government, for sure, okay? If we're not going to be seeing the capital inflows coming into Jersey. We want businesses relocating, and we want them to be employing local people. And at the moment, one of the problems that we do have, admittedly, is we've got a very tight labour market. So labour is already occupied, and I think that's one of the deterrents for some businesses who might be looking at Jersey, but then they don't have the labour available to them, and also the labour's maybe not qualified in the industry that they are experts in. And that's one of the constraints that we have, unfortunately, at the moment. It's going to be very difficult to overcome. But thank you very much for the question.
This, interesting enough, was a very topical question from the students at the candidates fair. And what was very apparent was one of the things that the reason we need to entice them back here, obviously, firstly, is they need subsidised housing. So perhaps something like student accommodation that is affordable to buy to bring them back. Having said that, it's very important for people to leave Jersey to gain experience elsewhere. That's the first thing. The other thing is, obviously, it's important to entice them back. The other comment that was made was that there's not a lot to do here when they do come back. So where they are, they tend to, they're out with the nightlife is far more exciting. So we need to encourage, I know we've got quite a lot coming in the future with Fort Regent and things like that. But the main thing is to be able for them to enable them to come back here and buy somewhere so they can feel established here. And with the cost of housing it is, we need subsidising housing for students to come back, to encourage them to come back here.
First of all, we have a thriving finance service industry, and that employs about 40% of our workforce and contributes 7% of our GVA. One of the things what I would like to do is a skill audit, so we can understand what are the skills we have on the island right now. And what I don't want to do is, again, to really do scattered investment as a government, because we need to understand our strength in finance service. And we can talk about green finance, and then we can talk about fintech. And those are the things that we can do, and we can plan ahead, and we can build the workforce and the skills there. And we can also talk about creative economy as well. So those would be my 3 top priority industry that I would want to develop.
So thank you for the question. It's a pertinent one. Young people, again, have told us that they would like greater choice and clarity in what opportunities they have when they reach post-16. And we do need to incentivise these students and young people to return to the island. Now, in order to facilitate that, what we are looking to do is to deliver a new campus for Highlands College that creates a modern hub for further education that is accessible, okay, and viable, and is connected to island life and industry. Now, what I mean by this is, in order to get that done, we can say, build on, pardon me, we can build on the industries that we've got and use vocational training and incentivize people back to the island. Now, with respect to supporting local jobs, we can build on the expertise that's coming back to the island and contribute to a more dynamic and resilient economy, which will provide us with greater tangible contribution to Jersey. Again, this is all covered in the manifesto, and we will again have collaboration ongoing. Thank you.
Trying to time myself. Governments don't diversify an economy. It's entrepreneurs that see an opportunity and they start a business and it's successful, so it grows. And that's what starts to diversify an economy. That's why it's so important for us to rediscover our entrepreneurial spirit and allow businesses to be developed and grow. And you want to know where I see growth? I think it's in the creative industries, actually. I think we have fantastic connections, optic fibre cables to France and to the UK, and there's no reason why we can't have filmmaking and marketing based in Jersey, and our customers can be all over the world. In fact, I know that there are traders living in Jersey. They spend an awful lot of time trading on their computers, and their customers, their clients are elsewhere around the world. So it's that diversification that we really need to start to encourage, because not everybody wants to come back to Jersey to work in the finance sector. Mm?
Time's nearly up. I want a super quick question, and candidates will only have 30 seconds to answer. And your hand, Patrick, you've been up first. Super duper quick, please.
I just want, as a member of the Island's Homelessness Strategy Committee and somebody who works with government, just to be very clear to the people who work in the homeless sector, the emergency accommodation providers are wonderful, and the housing advice service has...
Have you got a question?
Yeah, I have. It's coming. A housing advice service would have dealt with the earlier issue.
Okay, you're just making a statement. I need a question from you. If you're not going to ask a question, I'll ask somebody else.
The question is, though, the issue that we need within homelessness is the previous assembly...
No, okay.
No. Will you... The question is...
Are you going to ask a question?
Yes,
ask
the question is, will you bring into law the statutory definition of homelessness, which was adopted by the last assembly but not put into law? That's the key bit on homelessness.
Okay, so quick answer.
That's quite easy, yes, of course.
Will you bring into law the statutory definition of homelessness?
That is a very difficult one. Homelessness, is it rife here? Would you consider that it is rife here, that it needs a law to protect it? Yes?
It's adopted, but it's not in law.
No, okay. Yeah, well, if it's adopted, it should be law then. Yeah.
Patrick, that's not something that I'm actually going to give you a straightforward answer, and I don't want to give you a half answer, but I will go look and do my research, and I'll get back to you.
Patrick, I have a straightforward answer, and that is yes.
I need to read it before I sign up to it.
Yes, of course, it has been adopted, so I'm sure it will be enacted into law very soon. As I'm the last speaker, I would just like to thank all of you for turning up this evening. I'd like to thank all the tech people for recording it. I'd like to thank Gwyn for hosting, and I'd like thanks all the candidates for coming out this evening. And I hope you all manage to turn out to vote on June 7th. Thank you very much. Sorry, I forgot to thank Margaret, who handed around the mic. Well done.
I'm just about to say thank you very much for your questions. I'm sorry we had to curtail them so much at the end, but we are running out of time. If you would like to get in touch with the candidates and continue these discussions, then their information, their contact details is on the vote.je website. You can email them. And in addition, the manifesto booklets are going to be delivered to your homes from the 11th of May, so they'll be shortly coming out. Just to remind you, in addition to your 3 deputies, you'll be able to choose 9 senatorial candidates and 1 connotab. If you applied for the postal vote, don't forget to get your ballot papers in time to the judicial greph by 12 noon on Sunday the 7th, and you can vote early if you can't make the 7th of June. There is the pre-poll station at St Paul's Centre in St Helier, which is open between the 26th of May and the 1st of June. Election day is, of course, on Sunday, the 7th of June. Polling stations are open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Please bring some photographic ID with you to ensure that you are able to vote. And any further questions you have on voting and manifestos, you can go to vote.je. And thank you again to Margaret for standing up all evening and passing around the microphone. And thank you to all of you and to the candidates. And to 3CI.